Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study today of the Gospel of Matthew. And we're in Matthew chapter 26, Matthew chapter 25, verse 1. And we're going to be looking today and next time at two parables that Jesus will use to end his conversation, continue his sermon of the end times that he's been delivering to his apostles, and then he'll give them a vision of what the judgment is going to be like and how they will be judged, and that will be the end of chapter 25. As we said, Matthew chapters 24 and 25 are Jesus' fifth and final sermon that he delivers in the Gospel of Matthew, and it is the eschatology sermon, the eschatological sermon, the sermon about the end times. And they've asked him two questions. Whether they knew they were asking him two questions or not, we've talked about that. But Jesus talked about the end of the end of Jerusalem, the destruction of the temple, and they wanted to know about that, and they also wanted to know about the end of time. And Jesus explained to them that those were two separate events, that one could be foreseen and predicted, and that the other could not. That the destruction of Jerusalem had its own telltale signs, so that when you know that it was about to happen, skedaddle and get out of town, which Christians did in mass. But of the end time, the end of all time, no one knows, he says in chapter 24, verse 36. No one knows, not the angels, not even me, but the Father alone knows when that time is going to be. Now he's going to give them two parables in which he encourages them to prepare. To prepare for which day? Well, for both, and to be ready for both, because both are about preparation, about the fact that if you are not prepared when the moment comes, things change, and you can't go back and undo them. The first is the parable of the 10 virgins, the 10 bridesmaids. The kingdom of heaven will be comparable to 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 of them were prudent. Some versions say wise. For when the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them, but the prudent took oil in flasks along with their lamps. Now while the bridegroom was delaying, they all got drowsy and began to sleep. But at midnight there was a shout, "Behold, the bridegroom, come out to meet him." Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the prudent, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." But the prudent answered, saying, "No, there will not be enough for us and you too. Go instead to the dealers and buy some for yourselves." And while they were going away to make the purchase, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding feast, and the doors were shut. And later the other virgins also came, saying, "Lord, open for us." But he answered and said, "Truly I say to you, I do not know you. Be on the alert then, for you do not know the day or the hour." So both of these parables are going to be about preparation, but this one is particularly about being ready ahead of time when the time comes. So we have 10 bridesmaids. In Jesus' day, a wedding would last about a week, and the wedding would start, the whole event of the wedding would start when the bridegroom left his house to go and fetch the bride, to go and meet the bride. And being a bridesmaid, being one of the bridal attendants, was as great an honor as a young woman could be given. And so we have 10. So this is a huge wedding. So someone important is coming, the bride, the groom. So we have these 10. And what they would do is that the groom would leave his house around sunset. The bridesmaids would meet him at the appointed place and then escort him to the bride's home and then deliver the bride to him. That would be how the whole process started. And so they're waiting, and they're waiting, and they wait until midnight with their lamps. These would have been oil lamps. Some commentators try to make these torches, and it would make better sense that torches would be necessary at dark, but if someone's coming at dusk, the lamps would be more a ceremonial thing, you know. I'm not exactly sure. But Jesus says lamps, he's talking about lamps that you fill with oil. And some of the bridesmaids were prepared and had extra oil, and some of them did not come prepared. And therefore, when the bridegroom came, they weren't there, and the moment passed. And when the moment was past, it was past. And that's what Jesus wants us to understand. So I think he's talking mainly about the end of time, because he says you don't know. You don't know the day or the hour. It is true that I don't know what's going to happen in the next hour. I don't know what's going to happen in the afternoon, or if there will even be an afternoon. So this is generally true about life. You know, but it's more than just the Boy Scout motto, which is perhaps the finest motto of any institution: be prepared. This is about being prepared for the end of time, because when the moment has passed, it is past, and either you're there for it or you're not. Now, notice that the 10 bridesmaids represent all of us. And therefore, all of us have been given the honor, the invitation of attending the wedding feast as the person of honor, as someone of honor. And in the Old Testament, the marriage feast is multiple times a metaphor, an image of the coming Messianic age. We are all invited. We're all given a place of honor at the table, but we got to be there, and we got to be ready for it, or the moment is going to pass. And once that moment has passed, whether that moment is the moment of our passing or the moment when Jesus comes again, then the ability to be on the right side of time, the right side of history, the right side of righteousness, that choice that we're all given, that's going to be gone, and it will not be regained. Well, we'll talk about the next parable next time. Thank you so much for joining me for another 5 good minutes.